Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Pekka, J. King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Your daddy's always halfway there.
What's happening? It's me, Jay King from The Athletic, here with Brian Robb from SLive.com. We are still Poddable, the greatest Celtics podcast ever. This is the free show of the week on CLNS YouTube, broadcasting live on X, coming to you after Game 6 of the NBA Finals. The Pacers touch God.
Again.
That second quarter was just ridiculous. Pascal Siakam got it going. Everybody had it going. When the Pacers play good basketball, like, there's not a lot prettier in basketball.
No, it's they've skyrocketed up just fun teams to watch for me around the league in the last couple of years. Like now it's like them and the Warriors pretty much like neck and neck. I don't know who else you would throw in there, but as far as fun offense,
It's in there.
Like who else?
The
Yeah,
Spurs, when Wembanyama is healthy, are up there just because he's just like different. I'm pulling up the list of teams right now because the Pistons were a lot of fun to watch this year because they were just like tough and young and didn't back down from anything. But yeah, I would say Pacers are right there at top. Houston was fun too because their defense.
Right. Denver is just fun because of Jokic.
Lakers were fun because you wanted to see Luka there.
Right.
But not so much fun because the brand of basketball they play wasn't always great. But yeah, Pacers, I mean, just a relentless game. And OKC almost always wins the possession battle. Like, they win all the margins that Joe Mazzulla stresses constantly. They win the glass. They especially win turnovers. But tonight, Indiana flipped that. I believe they only had 1 or 2 turnovers in the first half, and that totally changed the game. And you take that away from Oklahoma City, all of a sudden they're mortal. And I think in this series, like, Oklahoma City's offense hasn't been great.
No.
When they haven't been forcing turnovers, especially, it's been pretty average. Shea's been great. Jalen Williams has been great, both in stretches, but like, they've had a lot of trouble creating threes. They've had a lot of trouble like just finishing twos. They haven't always had a extra source of offense. Chet's been pretty inefficient. So their vulnerabilities have shown up in this finals, but they'll get a chance to end it in Game 7 on their home court. I can't wait for Game 7. I'm so excited there's a Game 7.
Is the last one, was it 2016, the last one? Like, we haven't had a Game 7 since then, right? In the finals.
Is that true? 2017 Warriors whooped up on the Cavs. 2018, I believe they whooped up on the Cavs again.
There's a lot of whooping in that age.
2019,
like,
how many games was that? 6? The Raptors win?
I think everything was 6. Yeah, everything stopped at 6 there. I feel like there were some good series, obviously, like like Suns Bucks, that went 6. Warriors Celtics obviously won 6, but I don't think we've not had 7 in a while, and we've had some good Game 7s over the years before that. Going back to Spurs Heat, Celtics Lakers is a sore subject, obviously, in this podcast for the listeners. But that 2010 obviously was an epic one as well. But damn it, Jay, we're due for it. We're due, and we're gonna get it, and we deserve it.
Do you think that this finals is good for basketball?
It should be from a standpoint, but the buzz I'm happy. Let's just say I'm happy we're getting a game 7 in this series like that, because instead of all the talk being about, oh, the ratings are down, like there's no star power, like at least it's like this is as competitive as the finals as we've seen in a long time. And it's been like a lot of fun basketball. And clearly is going to open the door, I think, for this offseason for 15 to 20 teams to realistically think, hey, we could be the next Pacers. We could be right there. So I think that part of it is 100% a good thing for basketball, because the more teams you have going for it on any given year makes for a fun offseason, makes for a fun product during the season itself, and eliminates the endless tanking that we see inevitably, by a growing number of teams year by year. But a year like this, it's hard to find teams out of the gate who will automatically fall in that category outside of like the Wizards.
I think this is great for the league because I think this could open the eyes of casual fans to just how high the level of basketball is around the league. That it's not just the teams with super duper stars who can reach such a high level. It's the Pacers who they don't have a top 5 guy. Like Siakam's made all NBA teams, Halliburton has made all NBA teams. You wouldn't put any of their other guys list any of their other guys as big names. They certainly don't have the look of like historically a title contender. But man, like Pete Nemhard is up in your shit all the time. TJ McConnell in your shit all the time. They are passing the ball. They are shooting the ball. They are playing with freedom. They have 5 guys on the court at all times who are threats, except when Tony Bradley's out there. They just come at you in waves, and the skill level to me, like I saw a tweet today that I agree with. I forget who it was from. But it was basically like the difference isn't in the top players in the game anymore. The difference is that 4 through 15 on your roster is just so much more talented than they used to be. Like think back to like the Spurs teams. They had like Bruce Bowen like standing in the corner. Like could barely shoot, but taught himself how to shoot corner threes.
Right.
You can't get away with that anymore. You can't just have that level of competence on offense. You have to do so much more. You have to be able to put it on the floor. You have to be able to attack closeouts. You have to be able to shoot threes. You have to be able to go in transition. And if you don't, your team's at a disadvantage. So I think the level of getting on the court, unless you're Tony Bradley, the level of getting on the court for a lot of teams is a lot higher than it used to be. The skill level is a lot higher than it used to be. And this finals has helped to demonstrate that to everybody, because both of these teams just like have guys everywhere that can make plays and have guys everywhere that pick up full court and get up in you and defend all across the court, defend multiple positions. They have big men who can guard guards and guards who can guard big men. I just feel like hopefully the casual fans will realize like that they're missing some awesome basketball from teams that they don't follow all the time.
I think it's a good point. And yeah, check your mic real quick, Jay, just to make sure that's hooked up the right way. But on your point about like teams like the Pacers, I feel like the way they're built, 5 through 9, it's like everyone on their bench has like a unique skill set. Like there's like whether it's Obi Top and TJ McConnell, like they're not the perfect players, but they do what they do damn well, and they can do it in different ways. So like to have the way they're built at the bottom of the roster, where the bench pretty much makes an impact every time they come in these games, is huge. And we saw that. I think like the Celtics had variations of that this past year. I think Peyton Pritchard was that guy. Obviously last year was to an even better degree, but whether it's Pritchard, Hauser, Cornette, like those are guys that just do what they do well and are not, a one-trick pony. And so you're seeing more and more of that around with successful teams around the league. And it makes for more engaging basketball to watch, like more unpredictable results. And it's fascinating to see whether this will be the new trend now of like how these teams are built like this, like how this Pacers teams was built. The Celtics obviously were built in a certain way where they were very top loaded, and develop well for their bench. But the Pacers have built and the Thunder too, just pretty sustainable teams here going forward with lots of depth, and that obviously seems to be the answer in today's NBA to get through the grind of the playoffs.
Yeah, tonight wasn't a good game per se, but the way the Pacers played was just a remarkable display of basketball. That first half was incredible. It was, I mean, they got going late in the first quarter. Obi Toppin came in and opened some things up for them, and Neesmith hit three, opened some things up for them, and it just feels like once they play with that freedom, it's really hard to take that away from them. And then everybody is shooting threes, feeling comfortable. You got Halliburton shooting step backs from like 30 feet. And I mean, Halliburton, he looked so bad the other day. I was impressed by how much he recovered. He was probably very lucky that they had an extra day in between games. Is my microphone sounding better now?
Yeah, you're sounding a little better now. Yep. So
all
I
right,
think
cool. Yeah, I try to fix that. But yeah, I'm just wildly impressed by the Pacers because I think because the Celtics swept them last year, and because like they don't look like a contender, they don't have the profile of a contender. But if you look at their record, basically dating back to January 1st, they've been one of the best teams in basketball, and they can really just test you in a lot of ways. And where they've really taken a lot of strides, I think, is just their defense has gotten a lot better. They aren't just allowing points all the time. That you can tell, like Shea was never comfortable tonight. It was a terrible game from him, and I don't even blame him. He was like, he'd drive one way, and then he'd have like three guys coming chasing him from behind. And so the Thunder have to do a much better job of just kind of diagnosing all the pressure that the Pacers sent his way. But the Pacers, like last year, their defense was not good, and they've taken huge strides to become at least respectable on that end, and sometimes like pretty fierce.
Yeah, I didn't think they had this in them, like just with the trajectory of the team. But whether it's a guy like Neesmith, like Nembhard has been obviously an animal defensively guarding SGA as well as he can all series. SGA is still putting up big numbers before the night, but he's making them work for it. And then McConnell's just a special kind of pest, going for steals and stuff like that. And then, across the board, like Siakam, another guy who both of us were just couldn't be more down on, I think, as a player. Like
after that one
series, after 2019, after the 2020 bubble performance against the Celtics. But yeah, everyone has taken a step forward for the Pacers. Now, will that sustain for long term? I mean, we'll see. That's a challenge for teams like this where you've got a lot of really good players, and beyond Halliburton, like no real super duper star in the making. But it is like everyone here is in their prime. Everyone's taking a step forward, and defensively is where it stood out the most because between the poor shooting with Thunder, like turnovers tonight, like this is, I don't know how much credit you give to the Pacers or versus this being a Thunder no-show in Game 6, Jay, but it's just like this is the Thunder as of right now recording in the fourth quarter. Like they're scoring 85 points per 100 possessions late in the fourth. Like that's just an anemic offensive performance in a chance to win a title game. So that Pacers deserve some credit for that.
Would they be the most shocking champion? When's the last more shocking champion than if the Pacers win this year?
I think it's easily the most shocking one of our lifetime. I can't speak to like pre-1980s in terms of where the expectations were, but as far as the season opening odds, I imagine this has to be I can't imagine a longer long shot in the last like 40 or 50 years emerging here. I'm
looking back. the Raptors, once they got quiet, they weren't like a big surprise.
Right.
Everybody else was kind of pretty blue bloody. The Nuggets were like semi surprising because I think people still had doubts about Jokic.
Right.
And I forget how many they won 53 games that year. So they didn't have the look until the playoffs when they just were incredible. They didn't really have the look of a top tier team. The Mavericks in 2011 were surprising because of who they beat along the way, but that team was pretty loaded with like Hall of Famers like Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki. They had Sean Marion, Tyson Chandler, like just kind of a loaded roster, especially defensively around Dirk. Then it was the Lakers twice, the Celtics, the Spurs, the Heat, the Spurs. Like, I'm struggling to find one.
It's tough.
I'm struggling to find a champion that is like
because it's all
even,
dynasties before that.
Even
it's
somewhat
like,
surprising.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's Bulls, it's Rockets, it's Lakers, it's Pistons, it's Celtics. Like those, none of those were surprises from like the 1980 to 1998, pretty much. So
79 Supersonics.
right. That's like
They went 52
maybe?
and 30. I don't really know what the league was like that year.
Right.
I can't claim. And then the year before that, the Washington Bullets in 78 went 44 and 38. I have to imagine that
yeah,
was more
that might be it.
shocking than the Pacers this season. But it's crazy. Like, and the Pacers, they haven't had an easy road.
No.
They had to beat. It could have been harder, obviously, if the Celtics had beaten the Knicks. But they had to beat a Cleveland team that was a regular season juggernaut. And Cleveland wasn't totally at full strength, but it wasn't like they had nobody either. They still had their guys for most of that series, and some of them were banged up, but Pacers just ran them out of the gym. And then next team that gave the Celtics all sorts of problems, even before the Tatum injury, just overcame them with that comeback in game one. They've had some ridiculous comebacks, but I feel like this finals, they've outplayed the Thunder for the majority of this finals, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, when you factor in this performance tonight, that if anything, at worst, it's a dead heat because this is like that. Like the Thunder thoroughly outplayed them in the first two games, but since then, since game three, like the Pacers have been the better team on the whole, and they should have won. I think they should have won game four if they didn't collapse down the stretch there offensively. But at the same time, they stole game one. So I don't know. It's right. This is this is a series like that deserves to go seven. And I like the fact, Jay, it's like you get some 7-game series where it's just like blowout, like fixed blowouts essentially leading to a game seven. But we've had a nice mix of like really tight competitive games here. It's been, game two and this game tonight were laughers, but beyond that, it's been just like tight, compelling stuff all the way through for the most part.
And I love the storylines of the game seven. Like it's either the Thunder win, and it could be like the beginning of a dynasty or something like it. I think having a dynasty in this era will be very difficult to sustain that. Their roster is obviously impeccable right now, and they've given themselves with all the draft picks and stuff. They'll have chances to either replenish the talent or trade for more talent or whatever over the years. But also, like they have Chet and Jalen Williams still on rookie contracts. That's going to change soon. The price of this roster is going to go up, and holding on to the supporting cast, which is so huge for them right now, is not going to be easy. So, but you either have them starting off a dynasty or the Pacers with like one of the most shocking championships in years, but also another team that's pretty damn young and could have some staying power, especially with Jason Tatum injured next year and the Celtics' future kind of uncertain right now.
I also look at like if the Thunder somehow lose game seven here, they have more assets than like anyone in their for like draft picks and stuff like that. Like how much of a could that? We know Sam Presti's MO is to like just stay the course with, and he's build something very sustainable here. But will losing a series like this make them much more active because they can be in terms of getting a true, a strong third piece next to SGA and Jalen Williams, or I don't know, trying to upgrade Jalen Williams. I don't know. I think he's been pretty good in this series, but was what, like Caruso's probably been their third best player. Like if they lose this, they obviously have the means to upgrade that in other parts of the lineup.
Yeah, and I think some of that, like I would say their vulnerabilities have been on display in this series. They don't have, like you said, they don't have that third scorer really. Their ability to generate 3-pointers has really gone away for the majority of this series. Like they just haven't been able to create threes, which is a major problem today, especially when the Pacers get a lot of them up as they did tonight in Game 6. But so their lack of shooting has shown up. Their lack of like an additional creator has shown up. And I think some of that will go away as Chet just kind of grows into new responsibilities, because I mean, assuming he stays healthy, this is the worst Chet will ever be. And I think he's left a lot of points on the board. I think there are times when he's like gotten an angle on Miles Turner or made a good move and then botched the finish. He's just, maybe he's not ready for this type of I don't want to say stage, but this type of level of competition. And that's okay. Like he's in his third year, but really his second season. And like all this stuff is pretty normal. It doesn't normally happen in the finals because teams this young don't normally reach the finals. But yeah, I do agree with you that if they lose, then more would probably be on the table for them. And who knows what they would try to do? Who knows if they would, instead of staying the course, just be like, you know what? It was a great regular season for us. We were awesome for most of the year, but also like our weaknesses showed up on the biggest stage and kind of cost us, and we didn't have enough offense around Shea and Jalen Williams. So yeah, that would be a wild card if they do enter that, like if they do get the willingness to go out and make a move, they could make big ones.
Oh yeah,
they have tons of draft capital and a lot of good players. Like they could be major trade players if they do want to do that. So that would be a kind of a fascinating wrinkle, sort of like not entirely like it, but how the Warriors lost and then they got Kevin Durant out of it.
right.
Whereas if they won, like I don't think Kevin Durant goes there. But obviously that wasn't exactly the same, but
no, it's just like the sliding door situation.
Yeah.
You will. And that's 100% like that angle would add a far different layer to this offseason if it comes up. But again, we'll find out Sunday. All right, let's take a quick break here. Talk about our sponsor, Prizepicks. Prizepicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prizepicks has made daily sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash, and you run your game all season long on Prizepicks. ICJ, big Game 7 coming up Sunday night. I'm looking at the board here. I'm probably looking at Shea at home in Oklahoma City. You could go more or less. I'm going for more for him in the point total of his. If we're looking at 30 there, I'm definitely thinking over. I like the home team. I think it's their overall 15-4 all time in Game 7's NBA Finals at home there. So I'm looking at SGA to step up in a big way, live up to his MVP rep in a potential Game 7 situation against the Pacers on Sunday night, and looking for that pick on Prizepicks. So take a look at that. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. All right, Jay. Should we get into a little Celtics chatter here to wrap up?
Little trade chatter, baby.
Little trade chat. It's sneaking up here.
It is sneaking up.
We're coming close to decision day. Brad said he talked to us on the draft after his end of season press conference. So we're 4 or 5 days away here. We've had plenty of scuttlebutt on Drew Holiday in the last couple of weeks. Porzingis, Sam Hauser to a lesser degree, Jaylen Brown, Derek White seemingly expected to be off the table for the most part right now. Where are you right now in terms of what you're hearing, what you've seen, and where you think we end up in a few more days?
I think the most likely course is the less painful course, which would be like trade Drew, shop Porzingis, maybe trade Hauser, get under the second apron, not run it back, but not lose too much of the title team from last season. But I don't think the more nuclear options should be off the table for the Celtics. Just because the more I think about it, the more not far-fetched, because far-fetched isn't the right word, but the more challenging it would be to come back, not next year, but the season after, once Tatum's right again, and try it again with a similar roster, because you'll be down some guys that were key. You won't have the same depth. Tatum might not be the same. I just feel like that we've seen a lot of teams win a championship and try to keep the status quo, and a lot of the times that's not the right path. And it would obviously be a real risk to do more than just kind of the simple get under the second apron, rearrange things as little as you can, and try to come back once and be competitive next season. And then, once you can really reincorporate Tatum, then become contenders again. But I don't know if it will be that easy. And I do think that they should be exploring all avenues, including the more painful avenues for right now. Because to me, it shouldn't be about, you shouldn't be thinking let's keep this together, we'll be the same team, because 2 years from now, a lot is going to change. And that will be roster, that will be guys getting a little older, that will be whatever, Tatum looks like. And I just think coming back with less pieces than you won the championship, and also counting on Tatum to get back to his level, it's just kind of pretty risky to me. The other way would be risky too, but even keeping kind of similar would be risky as well. So
yeah,
I don't envy Brad Stevens. I think this is going to be a really hard job this summer.
Without a doubt. It's threading that needle, to your point, of being okay, let's run this back and try to win when we know that we're going to have to, the talent level is going to go down. You won a title last year and you had Drew Holiday and Porzingis around Tatum, Derek White, and Jaylen. You're not going to be able to get back that type of talent again in 2 years if you just stay the course, if you will, while also getting under the second apron. It's just realistically feasibly, it's very tough to do. Now, can you get lucky? Maybe you draft a stud at 28? Maybe you pull off a heist in a separate deal. You get an undervalued guy who turns into a hidden gem. Sure, you can get that, but that's a pretty big. That's not going to be easy. And so yeah, that's why they have to listen on any options. The question is, in my mind, it's what is are there Desmond Bane offers out there for Jaylen and or Derek White? And I'm not I don't know if there are or not. And I thoroughly an offer like that may not even be as compelling, like to the Celtics team when you're trying to win. You're in a win now mode when Tatum gets back, and so future draft capital, a ton of future draft capital, is not going to mean a lot to you unless you can go do something with it, in a year or two. So that again, that's another like complicated layer of exploring a route like that. But I'm with you. I think they have to. All options still have to be on the table at the point, even though the most likely option I think still is the simpler one of starting to peel off some pricey guys and keeping the younger core together.
And I think just from an ownership perspective, like it would really be tough to come in and sell everyone on like just getting under the luxury tax. You come in and immediately trade a fan favorite who helped you win a title. Like if you trade Jaylen Brown or Derek White, people will be so mad.
Yeah.
It would be so mad. Even if it was a huge haul. Like let's say it's Desmond Bane plus. And I don't know if you could get Desmond Bane plus. The Desmond Bane trade was like a team that desperately needed some more offense, was ready to push some chips in the table, and Desmond Bane was just a great fit. And I also don't think Memphis was like really desperate to get rid of Desmond Bane at all. So you had to pay up to make them accept
they got
it.
the value they needed. It was one thing like we can't say no. This is too much value to like say no to.
Yeah. And so even if you get Desmond Bane plus, like, can you really sell people on a future when you're trading away a young guy like with plenty of room plenty of runway to still be in his prime for a long time, and who has done incredible things next to Jason Tatum? So I think it would be a really tough sell for a new owner to pull the trigger on that because of the potential backlash, because especially if things don't go right with that trade and 2-3 years from now you're still scuttling around and you haven't been able to rebuild the supporting cast to the place where it needs to be to contend again. That's just really hard. But I think anything you do is going to be really hard because like eventually if you make only smaller changes now, you're still going to be paying a lot in luxury tax. It won't be nearly as big, but you're still going to be paying the luxury tax. You're still going to have limited opportunities or limited avenues to replenish the talent that you're going to have to lose. And I've seen people say like Baylor Scheierman can just walk into Sam Hauser's role. Do you know how big of a drop off that is realistically? Like that's a huge drop off. Sam Hauser is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. We saw Baylor Scheierman play good basketball for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
But that was just that's all he did. I actually was looking through the splits tonight for a mailbag I wrote for Scheierman, and his March was unbelievable. But then you look at April, and he fell back down to earth in a hurry. But no one remembers that part of it because everyone was so excited about his March. They should have been like he had a really nice stretch in important games, but like you said, to do that consistently at a Sam Hauser type level is far from a sure thing, and he might never ever get there because Sam Hauser, like that's one of the best shooters in the league.
We've seen Sam Hauser do it against Luka Doncic. We've seen him hold up against Kyrie Irving. We've seen him in switches at the highest level of basketball, like hold up to some extent, while also shooting 40% from three. Like we've seen that. How is Scheierman going to hold up if he's deep in the playoffs? And so that'd be a huge drop off. And maybe Scheierman like will prove himself, but there's a chance that would be a massive drop off in the rotation. Maybe Jordan Walsh, like maybe he can step into that, but I don't think it's automatic that you can just have somebody else be at Sam Hauser's level. Like that'd be an important player to lose, and that's without talking about Drew Holiday. That's without talking about potentially Kristaps Porzingis, who obviously the playoffs didn't go well, but whenever he's been healthy for the Celtics, other than this playoff run, And this playoff run, he wasn't healthy. Whenever he's been healthy for the Celtics, he's been super productive. And I just think you're losing a lot if even if you try to keep it like as minimal as possible, just get under the second apron. So Brad Stevens, he's done great work his whole time through. I think this is by far his most challenging summer, because you have to shed salary. Everybody knows you have to shed salary, and you want to do it without losing too much talent, and that's going to be just a really tough thing to do.
Right. And you also long-term money, like you want to keep options open there because this is, if you're keeping Tatum and Brown and White together, then your flexibility is just not going to be there in the future too. So you have to account for that. So it was going to be really hard if Tatum was healthy this offseason, but now with him off the table, it just adds a whole nother layer to it. And while it may give you maybe some cover to pull the more nuclear option, like you said, like that doesn't necessarily, like that could easily blow up on them. Just as like staying the course. Well, there's no clear cut conversation. I know, right? The Celtics are no, but at the same time, watch them come back. They'll get great value in one of these trades, and get contributors that'll help out. Like again, we're still talking about playoff team. It's just right now in the big picture of where they are, and the fact that other teams know that they are under the gun in terms of like they have to cut salary and they have to cut significant salary, even if they just take a minor step back. That's just a huge disadvantage to have, and it's tough to pull it off in this climate where I think a lot of teams are balking at taking on big money and knowing where like the edges, the flexibility teams want to have for the future and staying under aprons, etc.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the draft is next week, and we've barely talked about the draft at all.
No,
because so many more decisions are more important than, or seem to be right now, more important than who they pick at 28 and who they pick at 32.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. We will get to that. It's coming
all over
soon.
next week.
Next week could be a crazy one around the league. I think these next few weeks are going to be nuts around the league. I think there's going to be tons of movement. I think big names are going to be shuttling from one team to another. I think a lot of teams will try to be getting ahead of the collective bargaining punishments and not want to get into sort of the situation the Celtics are in right now, where they're just like standing on the edge of a cliff and need to push a couple players off. So, yeah, it'll be a fun week. We'll be here, as always, Monday through Friday on Still Poddable. This is a free show. If you want to subscribe to us, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. You can become a kid, which gets 3 episodes a week. You could become a god or a legend, which get 5 episodes per week, every episode. It's going to be, last season, the off season was like so slow. This off season ain't going to be slow. This off season is going to be better podcasting than probably we did during the season. There's just going to be so much change, so much to discuss. And I think we're not the only ones trying to figure out what path the Celtics are going to take this summer. I think people around the league are trying to figure out, are they just going to get under the second apron? Are they going to get under the luxury tax? How likely are they to move Jaylen Brown or Derek White and not just enough of the Drew Holiday, Kristaps,
the obvious choices,
Sam Hauser contingent? Yeah. So stay tuned.
Go up.
Subscribe. Come listen to us. We love you all.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable, Offseason, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh yeah!
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.